You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
It is Monday, September 16th. We're 2 sleeps away from physicals and training camp on-ice sessions get underway on Thursday. It's Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill. Another edition of Leafs Morning Take. What's going on, Rosie?
What's happening, man? Yes, it is that time of year. I am living in a rink with my children already, so we might as well start the NHL season. Why not?
Yeah, why not? It kicked off beer leagues yesterday, so that always symbolizes the start of a fresh, brand new season of muffins and giveaways for yours truly, but also signifies that hockey's back, fall is back. I'm a big summer guy, but that hockey season's just around the corner. I'm really pumped for a variety of reasons, but it's going to be great to see some of these new additions like in color, in person, on TV, on the radio coming up in a couple days with camp opening up. It leads you to remember, do you have any stories about guys coming into camp just grossly out of shape?
Yeah, I had a buddy. He was like a high pick for Tampa, and he wanted to just train on his own that summer. And Tampa was like, no, we got to get you in like a pro outfit and get you going with some, professional trainers. He's like, no, I do it on my own. And that was Tortorella's camp, which was like Torturella, they called it. And the first 3 days were like fitness testing. You didn't touch a puck. And I remember at the SFU track, we were running a 3-mile test with Tortorella in the middle with a megaphone screaming at everybody. And this particular high drafted individual was getting lapped, lagging behind heavily, and Tampa's organization just lost it. Sent a message to him, sent him to the coast, and it's kind of never the same, to be honest. But yeah, it's not a good idea to come into shape out of shape. If you're they notice the top guys that are in super good shape, and they notice the bottom guys that are falling behind, and you just don't want to be one of those bottom rung guys. It just sets the tone for the season and puts you behind the 8 ball right away.
It's funny with Torts too. I'm sure you've been tracking this, but Matvei Michkov comes over from Russia. He's like their top prospect, dude. The first practice of their prospect showdown scrimmage, he pulls off the Michigan, and apparently Torts just gave a glance to Danny Briere, the GM, and said, "Here we go." Michkov, I think, is the runaway favorite right now. If I were to handicap it to win the Calder Trophy, I think there's going to be some turbulence there, just with the coach and the player. But it's a pretty unique position to be in general when you enter training camp, because in this day and age, Rosie, everybody's just in impeccable shape these days.
Yeah, at least they should be. And this isn't there's a funny thing. I have it somewhere. I wanted to get it framed, but it's an invitation to camp for the Maple Leafs, I believe, for 1968. And it said, if you need railway transportation, let us know. Make sure you bring your golf clubs, as golf will be an integral part of camp. Everyone is expected to do, and it listed off, and it was 10 push-ups, 20 sit-ups, 30 knee bends, whatever the hell those are. And it was just this mockery of physical performance. And, back in the day, they called it training camp because you went there to train, to get into shape, to start the season again. And, albeit back then guys are probably working construction jobs and stuff on the side, and obviously not the case anymore. So it's a little bit more understandable, but yeah, that's a thing of the past. These kids are dialed. I mean, I'm cruising around, different areas looking at some young hockey players, and there's kids that are 8 years old in the gym just doing all kinds of stuff for hockey. So it's definitely a step up from the past, and these guys are going to be ready to go.
Man, we're 23 days away from the season opener in Montreal. And again, you get the feeling that hockey's just around the corner. There's been some pictures surfacing. I think there was a gala on Friday. Mitch Marner was there, Ryan Reeves, Jake McCabe, among others. I believe today is the Leafs golf tournament. It's sort of funny with that. I don't know if you recall this, your time with the Leafs. They do their annual golf tourney at Rattlesnake Golf and Country Club. I actually worked there for 2 summers, in my teens. And I remember the Leafs had come through. It was the coolest thing ever. Do you remember that tourney?
Well, I do. We did it at Angus Glen. Does that ring a bell? Yeah, we did it at a different spot. I love those tournaments, though. In Philly, they did it where it was an individual stroke play, and they had big trophies and stuff, a la the hardware behind me. Not a big deal, but that was fun. But usually it's just, you get up there with sponsors and people who are involved in the team and play a little scramble. But I remember I accidentally rolled a golf cart with Nick Hagman in it one time, which was I was a little bit worried about people finding out about that. But other than that, obviously a wicked time for everybody to get the season kind of kicked off and get to know everybody.
My big question, so at like these team-based golf tournaments, can you crack a couple cocktails?
Mm.
Like, is the Bev Cart girl coming by and you're ordering, or it's like, no thanks, I got a hockey season to take care of here?
It depends when it falls, like in the week with camp. But I remember
Yeah.
everyone kind of cruising around. Like you got your Leafs golf shirt on, so people kind of know who you are, and everyone's kind of treading lightly. But then one of the veteran guys will be like, I'm a grown man, I can have a beer here before dinner," and guys will maybe partake. But it certainly is not a runaway at that point in the season. Everyone's pretty focused up, and like I said, you don't want to start off on the wrong foot, so you're kind of minding your p's and q's.
No, that's fair because I'm not the biggest golfer, but anytime I do head out into the golf course, it always requires a couple of beverages. I just don't know how to play golf without it. So that's why I ask.
Swing lube, baby. You need some swing lube in you.
Fair enough. So the Leafs have a new like branding campaign that's been very, very cryptic. That's making people go nuts on social media, and there's a lot of theories as to what's going on. So this branding's everywhere: social media, on the arena, as you see right now on your screen. A lot of theories. Anything go through your head as to what it could be?
I had absolutely no idea. Somebody said it's the amount of zeros they still need for Marner's contract, which made me laugh. But producer Vic actually had a little bit
That
of
was a good one.
a prediction. OVO, that is Drake's brand, I believe,
Yeah.
and they have milk on their jersey right now as a sponsor. And the timing of when they say they're going to release what that means would be right about the time they would announce right before the season who their new sponsor is. So OVO, two O's missing. Maybe that. Would they have that Drake owl on their jersey for the Toronto Maple Leafs? What are you thinking? I'm just stealing Vic's idea straight off the top.
No, straight up, like I have no idea. Like my right away, I thought, okay, they're gonna release another jersey, man. Like this day and age, I don't know if you feel the same way. These teams have like 18 jerseys, so I think it goes without saying there's gonna be a brand new jersey in Toronto, in my opinion. But before we came on, like moments before, producer Vic put out a good point that maybe it's like something to do with Drake and OVO, and maybe there's a new sponsor. I think one of the posts too, like one of the display pictures, where the zeros are, it's like a clock, and it's 8 and 10 or 10 and 8, which would be October 8th, which is the day before the Maple Leaf season starts. So maybe that's when they make the announcement. It's all coming
Very
together, Rosie.
I mean, that makes sense. And it would be something like that that's not earth shattering news with the actual team. But can I just say something? Like,
Sure.
why does the Toronto Maple Leafs need a sponsor on their jersey? Like, they're worth billions, like billions. An extra sponsor, whatever that would cost. Yeah, it'd be a bunch of money, but like they need that extra cash in order to. I'm not going to say desecrate their jersey, but like if you fancy yourself being this staple of a historic team where your logo and your captains and your announcements is all this like historic stuff, why do you need a Rapper's logo or a Milk logo on your jersey? Like the New York Yankees, they will not put the names on the back of their jerseys because they've never had it going back to like the 20s and things like that. Why wouldn't the Leafs just be like, no, our jersey's sacred. We're not desecrating it with, a logo for an extra X amount of $1,000,000. Like, where does that million even go? Do you need it? Like, there's just money coming out of their ears. To me, it's like that's too historic and valuable to throw a Milk logo across it. I mean, I know that was an argument a few years ago when they put Milk down, but I just don't like it's a Maple Leafs jersey. Every little tinker that you do to that is kind of the historic thing that people remember as an era. And now you're throwing, different companies on it. It cheapens it, if you ask me.
Oh, dude, you're so bang on, and right away as you're going through that rant, a classic Rosie rant, it's like all I could think about was Keith Pelly. We are not here to sell jerseys. Like, do you remember that quote? I'm like,
Yeah.
come on, man, come on. Some of the things this franchise has done is still doing. You are here to make as much money as possible, man.
Well, it was funny because I remember like if I'd get in a fight and my jersey was torn or if I had blood on it or something, the trainers would like take that away right away and it'd be gone. And I'm always like, what happens to those things? And then I just cruising around a couple of years ago, I brought my son to a game and we're cruising around. We go to the gift shop and there's all the players' gear and whatnot. And it's like marked to the moon for fans to buy so you can have a piece of a player's stuff. But the trainers eventually told me, they're like, yeah, if you have blood on a jersey or if it's ripped and then stitched back up, I mean, that just goes to the moon on the market. So I get they don't mind selling jerseys. Let's get honest with it.
Yep. So looking forward to seeing over the next couple weeks what all these cryptic social media messages are from the Toronto Maple Leafs. Should mention coming up in mere moments, we're going to have the one and only Bruce Boudreau stop by. Should be unique to get his perspective as a head coach. The mindset going into camp. I have you, Rosie, to talk about the player's perspective, but getting Gabby's perspective on the new coach coming into a new team, that should be fun too.
For sure, especially, yeah, like you say, a new coach. Like you gotta, you probably want to set the tone. You probably want to have, something ready to deliver to the players as like, this is how we're going to set the tone. This is my vision. This is how I want you guys to get on board. It's probably a little bit different than, being the coach of the team for 8 years or something like that. It's kind of, you have that base and that foundation. So it'll be interesting to pick his brain about all kinds of stuff. I mean, a little while ago, we were looking like this is going to be the same old run it back. And while some people may argue that it looks drastically different to me. I think it's going to be a different feel, and I'm pretty excited to get that going.
Is it? I don't know. I ran into
Yeah.
Zach Phillips over the weekend. He's like, dude, they're running it back. I see Zach on King Street West like once every 2 weeks and same conversation. I'm like, buddy, I get it. He's not feeling that great about this team right now, but looking forward to the Leafs Nation After Dark starting October 9th as the Maple Leafs visit the Montreal Canadiens for the season opener at the Leafs Nation 401. Here on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. This opening segment and interview is brought to you by Greta Bar YYZ. For a good time, find Greta, 590 King Street West. I headed down this weekend for a couple pops over at Greta. Fantastic time as per usual. Weekly specials, live sports, over 60-plus arcade games. Let the games begin. Go big. Go to Greta Bar YYZ. Let's bring in today's guest, the one and only Bruce Boudreau with TSN, NHL Network, NHL Head Coach. What's going on, Gabby? How are you, bud?
Hey, not much. It's just a Monday getting ready for camp, I guess, would be the biggest thing. I'm not used to just sitting at home doing nothing at this stage of the season, but it's a little bit more relaxing than it would be if I was working.
That's
Hey,
funny.
I see you everywhere. Go where, Ozzy?
Do you miss that, or is it nice to have a little bit more of a relaxing environment this time of year?
No, I miss it. I mean, I find myself. I got this junior team, 2 junior teams in Hershey, and I was just over there this morning, and I got to pinch myself all the time. I say, "Shut up! Don't tell them how to do their job." But it's like anything else. When you've been part of something, part of a group or a team for 50 years, it's really hard to get out of that mode and be individualistic. Usually at this time, and every year of my existence, I think I have put the golf clubs away, and once hockey season starts, and I don't touch them until the hockey season's over. But now, I mean, I'm finding, hey, geez, I'm golfing Tuesday, I'm golfing Wednesday. I'm going, this is really a weird feeling. But to get to your question, I miss it. But at the same time, sometimes I wonder whether I could have done it when you're approaching 70. The stress, it's not even the stress, it's just the work that you have to put in to get ready for a National Hockey League season or a hockey season in general.
I would say too that you've been putting in a lot of work on the broadcast side, right? So you're just like transitioning your conversation, your perspective, and your experience to that. And we want to get sort of your opinion, behind the scenes look at what a coach deals with for the first day of camp, namely Craig Berube, his first camp behind the bench. You've been in that position before. What do you want to see? What are you looking for if you're Berube?
Well, you want to establish what your beliefs are right off the bat. And I think it's like anything else. You want to step on them early if they don't come into, you want to be disciplined. If they don't do what you want to do, even if you're an 8 to 10 year veteran and they're like, just say blowing the whistle to come into the circle. If they're, taking it easy and shooting that extra puck and then coming in, you got to come down on these guys and make sure that you get it to your way. You don't want anything to slide right off the bat. You got to put your mark on the team. You got to make them understand what you're looking at, what you're looking for, and so that you can't be soft on them, especially early in camp.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm coaching Pee Wee right now, Bruce, and I'm getting ready for a season, and you're thinking about what meetings do I have? Do I have meetings with the parents, which I consider like the media in minor hockey? They're always an outside distraction. But do you come in, do you try to like dump your whole philosophy right away, or do you kind of sprinkle it in as you go? Or like, what was your I guess philosophy as far as this is a new group, a new city, everything's brand new? Do you kind of temper yourself as far as what you want to accomplish, or how do you go about that?
Well, I think the main points you want to get across, right away, the discipline part and how you want it. But I mean, you don't, it's like anything else. You don't want to throw 40 ideas at them in one day because they will retain nothing. When I coached, I would put 4 points on the board at the most, because if I started talking about more than 4 points, and usually the fourth one was just a motivational one. And even though there's so much more you want to go, and when you start going into it, you go at home, when you're done, you're going, oh, I got to go over this, I got to go over that, or go over that. If you do it all at once, they remember nothing. So to me, it's get the main things down right, and then sprinkle everything else in afterwards. So, on a daily basis, that's why, like, I always had my coaches there 21 days before camp, and we would go over everything every day, to make sure that the most important thing was that we knew what we were talking about, that they believed that we knew what we were talking about. And if you can get them, like, the last thing you want to do is have the guy come in, and after day 2, they're going out and having a Diet Coke and a meal and saying, hey, listen, this guy knows nothing. What's going on? You got to make them believe that I can't wait for the season. This is going to be great. It's going to be different. It's going to be recharged. And that's the way you want them to think.
So, Gabby, I'm curious, as a coach, how much of your roster is set before camp even starts, or does it differ from situation to situation? Obviously, we got some things to play out in this market. Very busy roster right now, lots of personnel, but does it differ from team to team?
It is, because the way they handle money is different. So it's the cap space. If you're making 1.5 and you're on the fourth line or something, that you're pretty well going to be there. If you've got 12 one-way contracts up forward, there's a good chance that those 12 forwards are going to be on the team. The same with the defense. With teams like Anaheim, especially when the budget was not that great. With Toronto, they might say, hey, listen, if you're making 900,000, we can still send you to the minors, and it doesn't go on the cap. So it doesn't, so they can do that. And that's usually sometimes why the Marlies have along with Hershey, have one of the most, the biggest caps, or, in the league here. So, with Toronto, it would be a little bit different. You want the best players because it's about winning there all the time. But I think that has a lot to do with it before you go in. Before you go in after the summer, you also know who you've traded for, who's coming up from the minors, who had a great year. You can pretty well put everybody in, save maybe, there might be one forward that you're looking at, maybe two, maybe a defenseman, and that's where camp comes in, and you let them play 5 out of the 7 exhibition games, and then you dictate what's going on from there.
How about preseason, Bruce? It's a different kind of beast. You got a lot of, you could say, younger guys or guys chomping at the bit who could be running around trying to make a name for themselves. It can get physical, and it can, it's not every player's cup of tea. I know a lot of phantom groin injuries come up during that time of the season. What was your philosophy as far as, who plays how many? Obviously you got your stars and your big name guys. Obviously you don't want to get them hurt right before the season, but guys need some touches too, want to get their timing back. What did you think about preseason touches and how that relates to the Maple Leafs this year?
Yeah, to me, I always, probably after my second year, would ask the veterans, what does it need for you to get ready for game 1? Because that's the most important thing. Just be ready to make you in the best position to be in game 1. What does that take you? Now, I wouldn't tell them what games I'm playing them in, but if Alex Ovechkin said, hey, coach, I need 3 games, it would probably be games 3, 5, and 7, if there were 7 preseason games, something like that. And usually, to those guys, you want your home lineups a lot stronger than than your road lineups. That's the way it is. And because, I mean, you want to appeal to your hometown crowd rather than the away crowd. But you do have to have at least 8 players in every lineup that have played either last year or played a minimum of 100 games in the NHL. So, I mean, you need those kind of veterans. But I would ask the players. I know I'm long-winded this morning, but I mean, for the most part, like, I mean, for the veteran guys, like Mike Knuble, for example, he'd tell me, listen, I need 6 games. I'm a bigger guy. I need to get ready. It takes me longer to get ready. I need 6 games. So even though I wouldn't want to play him 6 games, I would play him 6 games.
What did you think of the Max Pacioretty edition? Where would you put him in the lineup?
It's interesting. That's an interesting call. I think he has to be, if he's going to make the team, he's got to be in the top 6. I mean, I don't see him as a third line guy. I mean, or I don't see him as a fourth line guy. So, I mean, to me, you got to find a place in the top 6. Now, watched him a lot last year in Washington, and he started like he was injured for the first half of the year, and then he was sort of pretty slow. But I mean, he's got the, he's been there. He's done it. He's been great. He's been a captain. So the Leafs must obviously have a plan, I think, for him if you're looking at the lineups and putting him in. Now, it could be different. It could be the Leafs saying, or Craig saying, hey, you know what? I want 3 scoring lines and a checking line. And if that's the case, maybe they want to put William Nylander at center with Tavares and Matthews, and then try to get 3 lines. I don't know if that always works, because the third line that's supposed to be a scoring line usually is playing against the other team's first line on the road, and that doesn't necessarily equal success. But if they're not going, if they plan to put William Nylander on the right side again, I got to believe that they're thinking of him as a top 6 forward or a 13th forward, one of the two.
Well, speaking of those line combinations, those young guys coming into camp, they made a lot of noise last year, being Fraser Minton and Easton Cowan. Easton Cowan's kind of had a breakout year in the O and looks pretty strong through prospect or rookie camp, whatever you want to call it. What's your philosophy on a guy of that age, but he's of the stature that he's one of those stud players and potentially is ready mentally and physically? How do you tread? Do you tread lightly with a guy like that and try to give him as much time as possible? Or do you think sometimes it's best to say, hey, if you're ready, you're ready?
Well, I answer it this way. I've had general managers in the past tell me, I said, listen, if you can't play this player 12 minutes a night, we're sending him back. We're sending him, whether it's the minors, whether it's junior, because we don't want to get his development and ruin that by playing him 6 or 7 minutes on a fourth line time. But if you can play the guy and he's worth playing 12 minutes a night, then all of a sudden you can put him in. And I think both of those guys, I mean, they're really good players. I mean, I think Easton won the Red Tilson Award in Major Junior this year. The problem with him is okay, now what does he have to prove in junior? I don't know. I mean, he's supposedly gotten bigger and stronger. That's where I was surprised. I mean, he's a left-hand shot, I think, left wing. If you look at Pacioretty, if he comes in, he's taken a spot probably for him, is my guess. And but if you could play him for 12 minutes a night, like they started out with Matthew Nyes, who played over 10 minutes a game early on, then maybe he's a guy that stays with the team.
Yeah, and I think at this point, Cowan's got a better chance of sticking than Minton. But is he a guy that you would be fine playing in your bottom 6, or do you see a youngster having to play in the top 6 right away?
I don't know what kind of. I know he's scored a lot, and but if he's a guy that could play on your third line and not hurt you, then I don't have a problem with it. I mean, if you could indoctrinate him. If he's a penalty killing guy, maybe he's the third line guy that could play the second unit of the power play, and that's how his minutes add up. I mean, but if you feel that that's what he can do, and he's going to play those kind of minutes, then all of a sudden you can keep him if he's the best player. If not, let him go back and develop whether size, strength, and even more confidence, so that when he does come up in the next year, you could put him in the top 2 lines.
How about on the back end, Bruce? It's drastically different look than it has been in the past. They've added a lot of names. Some would argue they're a little bit older or injury prone. But when you look at the back end for the Toronto Maple Leafs, do you get excited about it, or what are your predictions for them back there?
Well, I don't get overly excited. I mean, they signed 3 guys in the offseason, I think. The one I do know, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, is coming off a Stanley Cup. The thing I always worried is, in my last year, I tried him on the right side, and he struggled on the right side, just turning when players would go wide on him, and he was much better on the left side because he could use his stick as a poke check and a guide. If on the right side, it would end up being a hook. So I mean, so if they plan on playing him on the right side on the third unit, I mean, he's a pretty good player to put on the third unit, but I mean, I think he might struggle on the right side. The other guys, Hakanpää, who they just signed, is a guy they need. If you look at the Leaf defense, it's in today's standards, it's not overly big. Like, they had a lot of 6'1" guys, 6-foot guys. I mean, they do have Benoit, who's 6'4", and Hakanpää is what, 8'6" or something like that. So that. But I mean, if I always look at that, if he was, when they signed him for 1.5, if he was really a solid player, Dallas would have put in that claim and signed him for that as well.
Yeah, it's exactly what I said, and I think there's a lot of questions surrounding Hakanpää, but you touched on it briefly surrounding William Nylander. It feels like Groundhog Day that we're about to start camp, and it sounds like there's whispers he could start camp up the middle. Do you like him up the middle more, or still on the wing, or is that more so a testament to maybe the issue and some of the flaws with this roster right now?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if William wants to play center. I mean, that's where he played as a kid, but I mean, it depends on how you want your team. Andy Murray, who was a great coach, when he was in LA, and that he always wanted it like you break it down and you have your scoring line, your top line, and that's Matthews' line. Then you have your secondary line, your secondary scoring line, which is a better checking line. Then you have a third line, which is your checking scoring line. You could play them against anybody else, but they're still going to get some goals. And your fourth line was always your energy line. And that's how he had them mixed in, and then you would fit those parts in. So if the Leafs want to do it that way, then they'd put Nylander on the wing. If they want to try to balance it with the Paciorettys of the world and say Tavares and Pacioretty and whomever, and then Nylander in the middle with whomever, and then you got Matthews and Marner and Nye, say, and then and you got Domi on the left side with Nylander and whoever, whether it's Holberg or whomever you think. But then you're thinning the lineup pretty much, and I don't think everybody there in that situation has a role. And I think, as Jay would know when he was playing, if a coach came up to him and say, Jay, I don't care if you play 8 minutes or 12 minutes or whatever, but this is your role. I want you to be the best defensive left winger, and when in need be, you have to be, the protector. Then you know your role. I think if the Leafs do it with 3 lines deep, and then the fourth line is going to be, who knows? I don't think they know their roles well enough. And I think Craig is one of those guys that is going to let everybody know what their role is. Everybody's going to understand exactly how much they play and how they're going to do it. And I think he is not going to be vague in any situation.
And speaking of these combinations, Mark Savard's been hired to, most likely, we assume, handle that power play. And if, for people that were paying attention, it wasn't their defense, it wasn't their goaltenders that let them down in the playoffs again. It's they can't score a bloody goal. Their percentage on the power play this playoffs was atrocious. What do you think his angle is going to be as far as taking probably 2 units and trying to form something that works with these players?
Yeah, again, it's the role of the units. What I found with the Leafs in the playoffs, everybody wanted the puck. Everybody wanted the goals. I mean, I look at the great power plays. Everybody has a role. I mean, you can look at Tampa's, and they have their net front presence. And if he scores a goal or whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, I mean, but he's there to get in the goalie's eyes and everything else. In Toronto, I think everybody wanted the puck, so everybody's waiting to shoot the puck, but nobody's doing the things in the playoffs that they need to do to get the goal. And I think if they're going to put two units together, they've got to have everybody defined role. I mean, the only one that gets away with it is really Edmonton, because McDavid goes all over the ice, and you just can't cover him, and so they make it so difficult for you. But I think in Toronto, I mean, they started out with a really good power play last year, and then I think people just got tired of listening to Guy Boucher and was on their own page, and I think that became a problem.
Becomes very predictable, and that's been the story with this power play the last couple of years. I want you to put your Leafs cap on right now. You're a big time fan. How are you feeling about this team entering the new season?
Well, I think the coaching is going to make a big difference. I really do. I think what Craig's going to do, it might not get as many points as they've done in the past in the regular season, but I think come playoff time, they'll be much more defensive, responsible, and they won't, like, and when I say that, I mean, when I see the Leafs in the past, soon as uh, possession is changed, the forwards take off. And I think they're going to be coming back to the middle, to protecting the middle of the ice a little bit more, being more penalty playoff ready. Then all of a sudden, okay, let's change. You're not going to see 4 breakaways a night, I don't think, with the Leafs this year. But you're gonna see guys really defending hard and being strong on the puck and winning battles. And I think that's one of the things Craig does best.
It is all about buy-in. We've certainly bought into you, Gabby. Can't thank you enough for spending some time here. Enjoy the training camp here, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Sounds good. You guys have a great day and
Thanks,
a
Bruce.
great season as well. Okay.
Thanks, buddy. Bruce Boudreau, the one and only, spending some time with us, and always a unique perspective. NHL coach, obviously played in the league as well. Just fresh off it. So I really, really like that perspective and sort of the different looks that goes through a coach's mind as camp gets underway here, Rosie.
Yeah, he's too easy to talk to, right? He's got experience out the wazoo, so he doesn't have to think about stuff when he answers it. He's thought about it 100,000 times, and he has his philosophy. What stood out to me is, like, talking about the power play, like, everybody wants it, and it looked like a desperate scramble sometimes where everyone feels like they just have to take it and make some kind of fantastic individual effort to score, where when you look at the good power plays, it's like they set up and they're literally, you can see it on their faces. They're looking at each other and they're a unit. And they probably, they have 2 good looks. And if they're really good, they have 3 good looks. And all they're trying to do is spread out the PKers to leave something open, one of those 3 options, and they hit that option and bang, in the back of the net. It doesn't matter who it is. Everyone knows what happened. We got this guy to commit too much to here, leaving this guy open. Bang, there you go. And then they all come together. Yeah, that's how it's done. That's how it's done. Let's go do it again. And the Leafs need to get on that page. It just looks, he was bang on. It looks like, especially in the playoffs when it's getting late and they need a goal, they're behind. Guys are just wheeling around and like, whoa, he's cutting through the middle. And, whoa, he's going through there. And like, it's just like everyone's trying to do it themselves and be the guy to score. And it's not, I don't think it's a selfish thing. I just think they don't have, the setup and the foundation of these units. And these are our looks. And this is what we're patiently trying to open up in the killers. And bang, we got this option. Like I said, if you're a really good PP, you should have 3 options. And they're just not that way in the past. So I'm looking towards that in not so much preseason, but once the season gets rolling, if they can get on that page where they have, especially the first unit, to just have that deadly force where they are literally a unit who has a couple different looks that they can expose. I think that's what they need, but God damn it, I just cannot stop coming back to, 4.8% or whatever it was on the power play in the playoffs, which with a group like that is just so bloody unacceptable. I still shake my head at it.
Yeah, too much perimeter shit too. I think you just got to simplify it, and I wouldn't be shocked at least to start if they went with two separate units on the power play. But that's among the storylines to monitor over the next couple weeks leading into Game 1 of the season. Is the power play, how they deploy certain players? The Matthewses, the Nylanders, the Marners, the Rileys, the Ekman Larsons. You want to talk about commitment and buy-in, and granted, it's a bit different, but Sidney Crosby just signed a 2-year contract. Can you guess the AAV on that deal?
Like his original big deal, 8.7.
8.7 mil for Sidney Crosby. It's a lot different. I don't want to compare it to the Leafs. He won 3 Stanley Cups. But man, when's the last time a Maple Leaf signed a contract and you're like, wow, what a stallion for taking less to help the team out? Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Not really many. And I don't know if that's living in Toronto, the cost of living, the taxes
Yeah.
we pay in Canada.
Inflation. Yes, that's it.
It
Yeah.
could be that, but you also got to remember you're paid in US dollars, so the conversion's obviously going to offset a lot of that. But yeah, I mean, it's just funny, like 87, 8.7. It's just like an arbitrary figure that is kind of like almost like a little wink or something. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The furthest thing from that deal is trying to squeeze every available dollar, right? And Sidney Crosby just isn't that guy. So it's good for them, good for the Penguins, good for Sid. But it would be nice if you had a guy like come home and not have $11 million over the last 2 years of his contract. That is just not even in the stratosphere of being worth that. But we're not there yet.
We almost made it an entire show. Lowell33 says Crosby is washed. He had 42 tucks last year and 94 points. He is not washed. But Lowell33 also did make a good point. The last player, we look at the contract when you're like, you know what? The guy conceded a bit. Max Domi. Forgot
Yeah.
about that.
I was gonna say I knew there was one little tickle of a guy that kind of could have got more, and you could say that. And I'm a
Yep.
Domi fan. I think we've said that on this thing. He's a guy that legit is an unbelievable teammate. Will kind of do anything. I'd like to see him play a little feistier this year. I thought he was going to be a little more that way last year, but a little feistier. But he wants to be a Leaf very much. He loves being a Leaf, and I think he's one of those guys. He's already proven it that he will kind of do anything to help this team out, which you just need those guys. And if you're a fan of a team and you have a player like that with a personality like that and a commitment like that, I think you can't do anything but really love the player.
Fair enough. Once again, thanks to Bruce Boudreau for stopping by. Again, if you're in the chat right now, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Leafs Morning Take here on location at the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. So Nylander at center, Rosie, revisiting that conversation again, it feels like Groundhog Day, but would you go back to the well there? Do you think they start camp with Nylander up the middle?
I don't like it depends what it does to other players. Like who does that bump around? If you bump Tavares down to the third line, and depending on who's there, maybe I know. Do you break up Nylander and Tavares, and you put Pacioretty on Nylander's left side on the second line? I mean, it could make sense, but if all of a sudden Nylander's just like being at center, it gives you the creativity and the freedom to kind of go wherever you want, and you don't have as fixed of an assignment on half the ice. You're kind of everywhere. But with that comes a major responsibility of helping the defenseman out, supporting on the walls. Like the last thing you're thinking is blowing the bloody zone when you kind of got a 50-50 puck to get that breakaway. If he starts pulling that shit, it's going to fall apart in a hurry.
Yeah.
And I don't think Berube will stand for it. So that's kind of the one thing I wonder if he's responsible enough to hold that position and to do it properly, where proper means you got to have a commitment to your D zone and defenseman and playing low and being the third guy to come in high and not the first guy to break out on a potential breakaway or odd man rush. So we'll see where he goes. But I do like that there's options, man. I thought this thing not that long ago was looking pretty weak and the furthest thing away from having depth. And now I know there's some question marks about people's health and ability to stay healthy and whatnot, and the ages of some guys like Pacioretty. But
Yeah.
There's options out there now, and the young guys coming in could offset that as well. So I'm just kind of excited at the fact that we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, to me, it tells me a couple things. It tells me that they feel like John Tavares is fading a bit, and they wonder if he can be a top 6 center. And the other thing it tells me is that they feel the need that they, have a flaw or something missing on the roster where their depth is seriously tested up the middle, where it's like you look at the postseason, even Max Domi was playing up the middle. They can't seem to find that guy, right? Is it going to be Fraser Minton? Is it going to be somebody else? But to me, the fact that they keep going back to that well is very, very telling in a variety of different ways. And I wonder if Nylander's able and capable of driving a line. Like I think he's an exceptional player. I just think we've seen him time and time again play up the middle, and it's just a different type of Willie Nylander. It's a different type of effect. It pops a little differently, and I'm in the belief that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And Nylander buzzed last year, had an incredible year. I just think it can mess with a player's juju by doing that, making a position change. I felt like it was sort of a slow start last year because of that.
Yeah, and you wonder about the other teams in the league or the division or whatever. Like, are they dicking around with these ideas? Like, are they throwing mud against the wall and spitballing ideas? And I don't even know if the Leafs are doing that. I think, Jonas, kind of reported that, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure exactly the details on where that came from. But you just wonder if other teams that are ready to win now still have these question marks that the Leafs have. Obviously, they needed to do some revamping. They have made as many changes as they can to try to change the look of this team, but it's not the greatest thing in the world, a couple days before camp to be wondering if one of your star players, what position he's going to bloody play.
Yeah, to me, it just tells me it's an incomplete roster, especially up front. There's a lot of question marks. Like, I don't recall a year where there were this many question marks up front, but there's a lot of possibilities. Like, I think it's very busy. There's a lot of names. And I think we have to be careful with the roster we look at right now, because I think it could look a lot different. And certainly, I think if you have these ideas of putting Nylander up the middle, I think it opens up a lot more on the wings, a lot of possibilities. A Cowan, where does Pacioretty fit in? Where does Yarncroke fit in? What does it mean for like a Connor Dewar? There's just way more possibilities to the roster.
Yeah, which I'm kind of pumped about. Like I said a few weeks ago, it looked like, we broke it down. It's like, here are these guys, and the depth was abysmal, and there wasn't a lot of experience and just major, like, not even question marks, but just like, oh God, like that kind of a feeling. And now, like you say, at least there is possibilities, which is a good thing, because if things don't go right, you can go to phase 2 and see how that works, which is great. But I'm just excited to get this roster at least formed, and you can dick with the lines a little bit once guys get playing together. I don't really find a lot of reason to go through it right now, because no one knows. You can throw it out there, but no one knows how that's going to work until you actually put it into play. And they'll dick around with it, but in general, for me, I'm excited for like the coach to be running the ship. And I feel like in the past, the players are running the show and calling the shots and saying, well, I think I want to try with this guy. And what about this? And no, we're going to do this on the power play. And it just seemed like they had way too much input. And like when the soldiers are just kind of running the show, you're going to have holes everywhere and scattery. And this guy's thinking about himself and he likes to do this, but this guy's on a different page and it doesn't work. And now with Craig Berube, I think that he's going to kind of rule a little bit with a little bit more structure on, this is how it's going. So start doing it and get on the page. And those players will almost have something taken off their plate. Like, okay, this is what's going to happen. Now I'm just going to go do that. And they should be talented enough to do so. But I just feel like there would be a little bit different of a vibe or a personality out there as far as Craig Berube being at the helm and kind of paving the way for these guys to say, go down this path. This is how it's done. We're not this big scatter show where everyone's taking their own path.
I like the it's my way or the highway type approach,
Kinda.
taking nothing away from Sheldon Keefe, but I think the country club feel, I think it's going to be gone in a hurry. And I wouldn't be shocked in the first couple of days the story comes out and it's like, oh yeah, Craig Berube is here. So the prospect showdown took place over the weekend in Montreal. Some bullet notes on that. The Leafs swept the mini 2-game series, a 4-3 win in a shootout, 5-4 in regulation. Got a couple of great celebrations. Very Matthews-esque from Minton and Cowan playing to the Montreal crowd, which was very, very loud and I believe sold out. But unsurprisingly, Rosie, Cowan and Minton look great. topping the Emila 2020 third-round pick on the back end. Really impressed, racking up 5 apples, running the power play. Ironically enough, Toronto's power play looked really, really good. And by the way, what did you make of the Leafs rocking like practice jerseys as opposed to Montreal repping their actual real jerseys?
Yeah, it's kind of bush, but
Is it Bush or is it something, hey, you got to strive to be a national leaguer?
I was gonna say
Yeah.
it looks bush when it's out there, and it's not very cool to put on the practice jersey. But I remember putting that jersey on for the first time. My name's on the back of it, and it was like, holy shit! And that thing's heavy, and it's real. And those practice jerseys are kind of flimsy and shitty, and rightfully so, because if you want to wear the real big dog, and you got to earn it, and you got to get there, and it's supposed to be special. Which kind of goes back to my point earlier in the show on spreading a Drake fucking logo or a Milk Dud logo or some bullshit over something that's supposed to be that special. To my point, it should be special.
The big question I had for you on today's show, and he didn't play in the 2 games, and unfortunately he suffered a upper body injury, they're calling it. Ben Danford is rocking the number 38. Your thoughts, Rosie?
Yeah, you got to toughen up in that jersey there, kiddo. But no, I'm kidding. I don't think anyone has a clue what who wore that. And Fraser McLaren took that right after I left, and we ended up scrapping. I was kind of pissed about it. I was like, why would you jump into my number so fast? But it's probably the only one available. Yeah, it's not. There's a lot of jerseys in the rafters that have a lot more provenance than that one.
Yeah, I can confirm Ben did not text or call Rosie and get permission to wear that number. If you recall the interview we did, he didn't really know who Rosie was, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, well, let's be honest. Lots of people don't. That's the way she goes when you're a Destorino, buddy. But hey, not everyone can get their beer league jersey retired like you, Nicky Bobby.
No, I know. It's hanging through the rafters. Nobody's ever going to wear the number 13 again. That's why I switched to number 8. The one note, too, pertaining to camp, Danford, they're hoping is going to be ready for camp. Fraser Minton suffered a leg injury, an awkward hit, I think, yesterday. That's what you're always scared of in camp. Like we talked about it with Gabby. Like I just want these guys to get off scot-free, get their reps in, but get to game 1 of the season. But it just seems like every camp something happens, man. So I'm sort of like bracing for that, you know?
I know it's tough. Like you can go in the gym until your eyes are blue, but until you're in there, like banging and crashing, like your body is not
Yeah.
used to it. And I don't know if you could akin it to like MMA, like you can spar boxing. You can spar till the cats come home, and you want to be used to being in those positions and getting hit in a certain way. That's fine, but until someone's doing it for real at full speed to like potentially hurt you, your body's not really used to it. So yeah, I think that's why I asked Gabby that, because I think it's the common plight of like a coach or GM. Like we want these guys to get into it, because there is a feeling that coming out of camp of, okay, I'm in it. My speed, my timing, my body's used to it. I'm kind of, the little tweaks and creaks and pains and stuff. I've kind of cold tubbed and stretched and all the bullshit that gets your body ready, and then you're ready to go. So if you skip, preseason to a certain point, then all of a sudden you're not really in that rut. But if you go too hard, your body might say, wow, I'm not used to this, and something will get tweaked. So it's kind of that give and take. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, all you can do is cross your fingers and hope nothing disastrous happens, because it's just a crappy way to start a season, especially with all the new additions this year for the Toronto Maple Leafs, to have to, wait until so-and-so, like all these questions we've been talking about for weeks, line combinations, who's playing where, what's their depth, who's making it, who's not. You get 2 injuries and all of a sudden that's all on hold for a month, which is a big pain in the arse.
Yeah, and all of a sudden Connor Timmins is on the team again, right? It's like my lasting memory of last season was all these guys hurt when it mattered most, right? Like Matthews, Nylander. We're ever going to find out what the hell happened there? Like every other team, they disclose what happened. The Leafs are like,
so
nah,
leafy.
Matthews just wasn't good enough to go, Rosie. Wasn't good
So
enough to
like
go.
with sicknesses and
Remember that?
oh God, just out of the blue too. And he's trying to get 70, and like there's 82 games. There's months in October and December and February and March, and you could sit out anytime, and then game 1's happening. Nope, can't go. Game 1 of the playoffs. The only thing that matters. Can't go. Sick or whatever. What's going on? What's happening? No, we're not going to tell you. It's just he's not going. And then the next guy. Oh, he's also not going. No,
The most sickening moment was game 7, and there's like whispers an hour and a half prior to puck drop that Joseph Wall's not playing, dude. I was like, I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it.
How many years until you just openly use the word cursed? Like, seriously.
I don't know, man. And it's funny because like I think sometimes in this market we lose perspective of like the ultimate prize. Like I'm not here to win a round. I'm not here to win 2 rounds, like 4 rounds, a Stanley Cup. And that's why I think it really killed me internally hearing the reaction from the team after the season. We're really close. I think it was the John Tavares line. What the fuck are you really close to? Round 2 and losing in 5 games? Because that's what I saw a year ago.
And I think he was trying
Yes.
to lead to the fact that the line is pretty thin between, going deep and exiting in the first round, and with a couple of tweaks or whatever, he's saying that he believes in this group, that they're a couple tweaks and they'll get there, that type of thing. But in that media, it comes off, and everyone piles on him for that. Well, guess what you're going to get next time from John Tavares? Like, dreadfully, painfully
Now we get
useless
it from Matthews. Don't worry.
comment. You're going to get it from everybody. It's the way it goes with that market. But I know things like that drive people nuts, and I don't know. I want to go ahead with Craig Brubase's team and not look back at that playoff their power play, dude. It's too much. Let's move on.
We're turning the page, man. We've done this show for 2 years, and it's like Groundhog Day every postseason. It's like, how is this possible? They have a guy who scored 69 goals. They have all these guys who get close to 100 points, gets to the playoffs, can't score on the power play, can't produce. It's never about the things people externally talk about. Goaltending, defense, always the same thing. And hopefully Craig Berube in the mix, so maybe it's a different look for this Maple Leafs team. And we feel optimistic about this Maple Leafs team entering camp starting on Wednesday. It's time for the last call. Brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Anything come to mind betting-wise? Monday Nighter, you into football? How'd you do yesterday?
I basically don't even watch because
Okay.
2 of my top guys are injured. So yeah, I got nothing on football. I've kind of been focused on minor hockey at the Pee-wee
Okay.
level right now, is what's taking up my my time with my kid in the middle of evaluations, and me just throwing my name into head coach here yesterday because absolutely nobody else in town has stepped up. So that'll probably be my life this year. But no, I don't have any betting. I'm excited for the season to get started so that I can actually, like, I've been neglecting my Bet365 app is what I've done. And I'm excited to get that thing rocking again and get a little bit of interest going, a little bit of juice for the squeeze there, and to be watching things with a little bit more interest.
I only bet on hockey, so I haven't done any betting this summer. Not a football guy, not much going
Why not
on.
ball? I thought you'd bet on ball. You're all horny about ball.
Basketball?
No, baseball.
Baseball, I don't watch it anymore. I used to be big. I used to be in a couple fantasy baseball leagues. I just can't watch anymore. If you have me on social media, you know how I feel about the Blue Jays. They were unwatchable this season, dude. Absolutely unwatchable. It has killed my passion for the sport, what they've done in Major League Baseball over the last couple of years. And for those of you who have been longtime listeners to me, they know that baseball is my number one sport. First sport I played rep, all that stuff. I just can't watch it like I can watch hockey. I could watch hockey on a Sunday afternoon. I could watch it on a Monday night. Like, it does not matter. Baseball I watch, but I can't watch an entire game anymore. And I just couldn't get into the Jays this year. They pissed me off, dude.
Ouchie, you're jaded on the old ball. Didn't you like how they sped the game up, or is that just blasphemy to you?
Yeah, I don't know. I just, some of the direction it's going, even with the umpiring and all that, I don't know. There's just a lot to the game that's changed, where it's like when I played, those doubles hit. Now it's all about a home run or a strikeout. And it's a lot different. To go, I think we should just have an over-under bet. Sidney Crosby signs today, 2-year contract, $8.7 million per season. That's not a typo, by the way. Sidney Crosby, a normal contract for him would probably be 11 half sheets a year. I think we can both agree with that, coming off a 94-point campaign, 42 points. Another team-friendly contract, but I'll set the bar at 90 points for Sidney Crosby this season. Over or under Jay Rosehill?
What is he? A year, 2 years younger than me?
He's 37 now.
90. That's a good number. He was 94 last year.
Yeah.
Is that team going to be any better?
No, they're dog shit. They're dog shit.
It's a good one, man. Just because it's Sid the Kid and he's such a good guy, and he just did a massive solid to the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm going to say he hits the over.
I'm with you. This guy's he's an absolute stud. Okay, this guy's like a Mount Rushmore type player. You know, the person who said this guy's washed in the chat, man, watch hockey. Crosby is still incredible at 37. I think he's still going to be a marquee player at the Four Nations coming up in February, which, by the way, I think, Rosie, you and I are going to be at. But Crosby's going to be starring for Canada. We're going to see him with McKinnon. We're going to see him with Marchand. So looking forward to that. Sidney Crosby signs. And the thing that pisses me off the most, producer Vic just brought up, you know who's going to get credit for this? Kyle Dubas. No. Crosby went, I guarantee you Crosby went to Pittsburgh. Hey, I'm signing a 2-year deal, 8.7 mil. Leave me the fuck alone. Lose my number. Thank you.
Literally, like as if that's Dubas's work that guy signed that thing. That was happening regardless if Dubas's kid was running the team or not. But I don't know. Maybe he'll get the credit for it. Maybe he won't. At the end of the day, we all know who the good guy in that deal was, and that's Sid the Kid.
Yeah. Oh, just a consummate pro. And again, I'm not going to compare it wholeheartedly to the Leafs because he's won there. Some of these guys haven't won here, but I mean, he has left a lot of money on the table to stay a Pittsburgh Penguin. And
but if you haven't won here, wouldn't it be more reason to take a discount so that you can win? He's been like, I've gotten you how many cups here? I'm not leaving $3 million on the table. Like pay up or I'm out. But I can imagine his roots go deep in Pittsburgh with the family and personal life and his wife and just being around there. And I could see, you know, him trying to leave room for them to get a little bit better, as I'm sure he hates losing, but probably doesn't want to pack his life up very badly.
Yeah, you're right. And I think maybe this opens the door to like down the road, maybe in November when he's got 40 points in 8 games. Mitch Marner signs an 8-year deal at $8.16 million per season. And we're like, my goodness, this guy left $3 million a year on the table. What a guy.
Believe that when I see that, buddy boy. But that is an interesting conversation for another day. We will see, man. I don't know what his number is going to be. I am, lots of question marks still.
Yeah, we've gone a little lengthy with this, so appreciate everybody. Should mention, we got one question about when are we going back to Monday to Friday full time. Season 3 of Leafs Morning Take will launch on October 7th. That's a Monday. I'll be missing the first 2 shows. Unfortunately, I guess I should say, I'll be in Mexico for a wedding the first week of October, but we're launching October 7th. The Maple Leafs start October 9th, which is the Wednesday. So that's your answer to the question. From now until then, we're going to still continue to do our thing, couple shows a week, get you set for the season. So we got everybody covered here on Leafs Morning Take.
You're starting the season in Mexico. Now I've seen everything from this guy. My goodness.
Banco writes, tarp off pod from the beach. I don't think people want to see tarps off. I got too much chest hair. I got some reaction, some of my shirts, my wardrobe out in Europe. The chest hair was flowing, buddy.
And your little posed pretend candid shots with the sorry, someone taking a picture.
The good thing about that picture from the beach.
Try it again from this angle. Okay, no, I'm just gonna pretend like I'm walking. I
use like AI to like get rid of the background too. There's people in the water for that picture. No thanks, man. Not for me.
You can filter those people out now.
Yeah, technology's crazy, dude. Technology's crazy. But anyways, you guys have been great, man. We got a lot of people watching today. We appreciate that. If you could do us one more solid on the way out at the Leafs Nation 401, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. We promised everybody we'd get to 20,000 subscribers by January. So if we don't get there, you're going to have new people doing this show. So we got to get there, folks. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Many thanks to Bruce Boudreau for stopping by. Producer Vic, bang up job as per usual. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga. We'll talk on Thursday. Take care. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.